Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm your host John, and today we have a special top 10 Kurt Russell movies video for you guys, and this is for Mr. Smelly Potato, our channel bankroll member. If you are a channel bankroll member, every other month I will do your own choice video no matter what it is, and for this month Mr. Smelly Potato wanted us to count down the top 10 Kurt Russell movies. And Kurt Russell, he's been one of those actors who's been working since he was a kid in the 1960s. He was in the Disney system, and he's still working to this very day. The guy has done it all. He worked with John Carpenter. He's played Santa Claus. He's one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. He's been with Goldie Hawn since the 1980s. Even his son Wyatt Russell is a pretty big actor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, so it's a face that you can recognize, and the man has never really been recognized for how good of an actor he is, at least with awards throughout his entire career, but he's been very consistent, a very good box office draw. He plays a wide range of roles, as you guys will see in my top 10 list. He can pretty much do it all, and he absolutely deserves his flowers. But I'm not going to waste too much of your time up top, and I usually don't like to do any honorable mentions either, so there's going to be some movies on this list that maybe you don't necessarily love. There's going to be some movies that I omitted from the list that I don't necessarily love, but just remember, guys, that this is just my opinion, so if you disagree with it, that's perfectly cool as well. Make sure you guys leave your top 10 Kurt Russell list down in the comment section below so we can talk about it a little bit. But anyway, what is my number 10? 1988's Tequila Sunrise. This movie stars both Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson, and then of course Michelle Pfeiffer in the third role, and she plays a very important part, especially for these two guys, because Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson are old friends, I think back from childhood, and the two of them, well, they ended up on opposite sides of the law. Kurt Russell's a cop, Mel Gibson's a bad guy, but they do have this mutual friendship with Michelle Pfeiffer, so you can see where this movie's going. And you know, it's your classic crime romance film. You know, we kind of got a bunch of those in the 1980s. The setting of this movie is absolutely beautiful. I mean, we're getting Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell like really at the peak of their game as far as 1980s go. This is 1 year after Lethal Weapon came out, so Mel Gibson, people recognize that name as well, so that's really what sold the movie. Michelle Pfeiffer not too long after Scarface, a couple years before Batman Returns. There's a lot going on in this movie. When I first saw the title of it, because I only caught up to this movie for the first time a couple years ago, I only checked it out because of the title, and I saw the chaos, and I was like, what the fuck is this about? And I'm a really big fan of the song Tequila Sunrise from the Eagles, so
it's another tequila sunrise.
That was enough for me to watch the movie, and I thought, you know what, this is actually a pretty good movie. It's nothing too special. It's not like the most memorable film, but it's definitely a good kind of watch every few years. You know, you'll enjoy it. Sit back, have a drink, and have a good time. And at number 9, I got Death Proof, and this is where he plays Stuntman Mike. He's a killer, and he kills in the craziest ways possible. This guy obviously used to drive a car for the movies. He's got his car all set up for it, so this way he can get in a car accident, kill the person that he's with. Now, this came out in a double feature grindhouse with Planet Terror. This one's directed by Quentin Tarantino. He directed Death Proof, while Robert Rodriguez, his good buddy, he directed Planet Terror. And when you saw this movie in theaters, you saw Planet Terror, then you got a bunch of fake commercials in the middle for a bunch of movies that don't exist, but eventually would exist, like Thanksgiving, so that's pretty funny. Eli Roth's Thanksgiving got its first premiere, its first commercial, right here in the middle of Planet Terror and Death Proof, and then Death Proof, the second part, directed by Quentin Tarantino. I actually have the full uncut version of Death Proof. I choose to watch it that way, even though I do think that's Quentin Tarantino's worst movie. It's the first time he ever worked with Kurt Russell, and the two of them clearly had great chemistry. They would work again with a movie you'll see later on this list. But Death Proof, it's still a great watch. Stuntman Mike is great. It's always fun to see Kurt Russell play the villain like he does in this movie. And, you know, like I said, it's not Quentin Tarantino's best movie. It's not Kurt Russell's best film, but it's still very enjoyable. I'll watch this one every, 2 or 3 years. And next up, I got 2015's Bone Tomahawk. And this is coming out during Kurt Russell's, we'll say, Western phase, or at least his long bearded phase, because he's got that long, thick beard and thick mustache they would have in, the Hateful Eight, and then when he would play Santa Claus in the Christmas Chronicles. So he's got that going on for him, but he plays a sheriff in this movie. And this is a horror Western. My cousin Dennis, who you guys have seen on the channel a million times, he was recommending this movie to me for years. And then finally I said, fuck it. I pulled the trigger. There's a full Blu-ray review here on the channel, because it does have a very nice steelbook. Checked it out, and my God, this is a fantastic film. And I'm going to do for you like he did for me, and I'm not going to tell you anything about this movie. Just know that it is a horror Western. If that sounds like something that would be up your alley, Trust me, you're going to want to check this movie out. It was sold to me like that. I was a little skeptical. That's why it took me like 5 years to finally watch it. I was like, I don't know. I didn't really hear much about it when it came out. I was wrong. This movie is great. Check out Bone Tomahawk. And next up, speaking of Tarantino and Kurt Russell, this is where I think their relationship culminated, and that was in The Hateful Eight. And The Hateful Eight has been one that's a very special part of my life since the time it came out, because this movie takes place entirely in the snow. I actually saw this in a theater on a day where it was snowing outside. My first vacation from the last job I had that you guys have heard me talk very negatively about on the channel. Still hate that job. But anyway, the first time I ever got a vacation from that job, it was a winter week and it was snowing like all week. I remember I took my truck, went to the movie, saw the movie all by myself in theaters, and just had a great time. Tarantino's my favorite director ever, so I'm usually on board for whatever the hell he's doing. Of course, bringing in Kurt Russell in this movie, it's kind of funny because the score, the Amir Miracone score that's in The Hateful Eight, the one lead track is actually the B-side track from The Thing. So that's the first place it actually came from. Both of them obviously feature Kurt Russell in the lead roles. And very similar structured stories. Like, this is just like a Western version of The Thing. Like, these people are trapped and they don't know who the killer really is. And Kurt Russell plays a guy who just taken in a prisoner, and he's just trying to get his money. That's all. Because, like, he's taking him to the hangman. That's his job. And that's when he takes him to the hangman, they hang. And he's got that big, bushy, brolicky beard in this movie. A lot of bushy beards in this movie as well. Like, get a little bit disgusted when they get sauce and everything. And I'm like, is that what I do? Because I got the big, bushy beard. Although, I think it might be coming off pretty soon, guys. It's my wife is not a big fan of it. I was trying to go for a young Kris Kringle look, so it might be time to trim up the beard. But Kurt Russell gives me big inspiration for like roles like this in this movie right here, where he's got the beard, he fully commits to it, and he's an angry man. This is also the movie where he broke that real guitar. So like, what's her name's reaction to him breaking that guitar is genuine, because that guitar was taken from a museum. It was just borrowed, and it's priceless. And Kurt Russell destroyed it because a prop man forgot to swap it out. So big mistake for the prop man. Probably lost his job that day. But anyway, check out The Hateful Eight. Next up, I got Miracle. And this is a big deal when it came out. I don't hear anybody talking about this movie anymore, but when it came out in the 2000s and then for about 5 to 6 years after that, it was playing everywhere. I probably saw this movie like 20 times in a 5-year span. I don't think I've seen it since, though, if I'm being honest. But I do remember how good Kurt Russell was in this movie as the coach of the United States hockey team that ended up beating Russia in the 1980 Winter Olympics up in upstate New York. It was a huge deal. Like, it's still considered the Miracle on Ice. I even knew about it before I saw the movie because it just was not supposed to happen. And in the Cold War going on, again, it's just something that was not supposed to happen. But it did happen. And this movie is exploring that. And Kurt Russell just plays, he's playing a real-life character in this movie, but I think he does it in a very tasteful way. Again, showing his dramatic chops. If there was ever a time where I thought, like, maybe they'll give him an Academy Award nomination, maybe they did. I don't even remember. But if they ever were, it would be for a movie like this, where he gets the big monologues, the big inspirational speeches. It's all right here in this movie. And the real-life, it was named Herb Brooks. The real life Herb Brooks didn't pass away that long after this movie. I remember actually the day it happened. I was like eating cereal before school, and this is the days before the internet. I mean, the internet was around, but before you had your smartphone. So I'm just watching sporting news, and then there it is. He pops up that he passed away, and it's just like, small world, man. Died in a car accident. But the movie itself is fucking great. Check out Miracle. And cracking the top 5 is Overboard. And I was actually going to do a whole video on this when I rewatched this movie, but I'll talk about it here in a little bit. Overboard came out in the 1980s, 1987. It stars Kurt Russell and his real-life partner, Goldie Hawn, who they never got married. They've been together since the 80s, and they never did get married. But the two of them, in this movie, Kurt Russell plays a carpenter, and a carpenter is going to make a closet for this rich, stuck-up bitch played by Goldie Hawn. She needs to learn her lesson, right? That's the whole movie. It's about her learning her lesson. But did she need to learn this lesson? That I don't know, because she doesn't like the job that Kurt Russell did, so she's like, fuck it, you know what? I'm not paying you at all. Get the hell out of here. And he wants his $600. Unfortunately for Goldie Hawn, that night she falls overboard, hits her head, gets a concussion, has amnesia, doesn't remember who the fuck she is. So Kurt Russell gets, hey, you know what? I'm going to go kidnap her, because that's essentially what he's doing, is I'm going to make her think that she's my wife, and I'm going to let her raise my kids, clean my house, and have sex with me because I wanted my $600, and I feel like it wasn't just what happened to me. So I'm going to do all of this. Meanwhile, her husband fucking hates her, and the funniest part of the entire movie is he sees her at the hospital, and the doctor says, so is that your wife? And he's like, I've never seen her before in my life. And then Kurt Russell and his buddy are watching the TV, and they're like, what's he doing there? Why is he leaving? And then I hear Kurt Russell say, because he's got a shot at freedom. He's not going to pass that up. Yeah, man, that made me crack up. Because as a married man, sometimes you do think that. But anyway, in this movie, so he literally says, "You're my wife," and he has her cleaning the house. He lives in a fucking pigsty, by the way, because his wife passed away, I think, 3 years earlier. And the more sentimental moments in the movie are when he's like talking to her about their past relationship. Obviously, that was him with his real wife. But you're trying to buy into this movie, and like it's kind of fucked up that he's basically turned her into a slave for him just because she was a cunt to him. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to justify that, but it is the 1980s, and I would also be lying to you if I didn't say that by the end of this movie, when these two eventually get back together, because she does get her conscience back and she remembers who the hell she is, and she goes back to her old life and she realizes, I don't like being a rich bitch. I would rather live with that guy and his 3 kids and raise them with him in that shitty house than be here with all you guys. And she learned her lesson. She did a full 180 on her personality, and then when these two, they're on different ships, they scream at each other. I mean, I swear to God, I started crying. I'm like, fucking 80s movies, man. This plot is ridiculous, but I absolutely loved it. It was a big-time childhood favorite of mine. My mom still loves this movie. I just sent her a random picture from the film. She knew what it was. It's still great to run back to. The plot's absolutely ridiculous. Don't watch the remake, but still overboard. It's a product of the 1980s. In my opinion, the best of the 1980s, even if it's absolutely ridiculous. And at number 4, Tombstone. This is the one where he plays Wyatt Earp. And this came out around the same time as another Wyatt Earp film. This one's a little bit more well-known than the Kevin Costner one that came out. And it's also believed that Kurt Russell directed this film because there was a lot of issues. The original director got fired. The director who came in was more like just a manager, but Kurt Russell apparently was the guy who directed a lot of these scenes. And Tombstone is one of the best westerns of all time. Not one of my personal favorite westerns, but I know so many people who consider this either their favorite film or even their favorite western, and for good reason. It's got a stacked cast from top to bottom, but a real moral compass is in Wyatt Earp, played by the great Kurt Russell, with that great big bushy mustache, as everyone has nice great big bushy mustaches throughout this film. And it's just one of those great 90s westerns. It's a Hollywood western, so if you like that Hollywood flair, you're gonna really enjoy this movie. The 4K Blu-ray that came out earlier this year is pretty good. It's not one of the top 10 westerns on 4K Blu-ray of all time, but it's still a pretty good one, and it's one of Kurt Russell's best performances. And at number 3, I got Escape from New York, where he plays Snake Plissken. Now, I could have put this and Escape from LA. Very different movies, but still, they both feature Snake Plissken, and I enjoy them both. But Escape from New York is a classic. Again, him teaming up with John Carpenter. The President of the United States has crash-landed in Manhattan, which has now become a prison, where they just leave everyone alone. You're a fucking prisoner, you go there, just make do what you got to do. So we got Isaac Hayes running around as the boss of this and everything like that, so he has to save the president in 24 hours. And Snake Plissken, he's a criminal himself, so he's got an injection in him, and if he doesn't do the job, he'll be dead himself. So a little bit of an extra motivation. This movie, just another classic of the 1980s, using miniatures. All the stuff that they did to make this movie look the way it does is a big reason why I personally enjoy this movie, the great John Carpenter score. But at the center of it, you have a guy who can run his mouth like no other in Kurt Russell, barely speaking in this movie. Again, showing the range of the actor. John Carpenter just knew how to work with him. They had a great working relationship ever since they did Elvis together, and it just shows on the screen. Again, they come back together in the mid-1990s for Escape from LA, but it'll always be hard to top the original Escape from New York. And this is one that's probably going to surprise a lot of people, but my number 2 Kurt Russell film is Backdraft, directed by Ron Howard. He plays Steven in this movie, and his brother Brian is played by, which one is that? It's one of the Baldwins. I think Stephen Baldwin, which is pretty funny. But, oh no, it's William Baldwin, actually. I think it's Billy Baldwin. It's one of the Baldwins. But anyway, they play firemen, and Steven plays the older brother who, unfortunately, when they were kids, their father passed away, and he had to kind of take over the mantle of being the dad, being the hard ass. And he didn't think that Brian was that kind of guy. He didn't think that Brian could take it to be a fireman like their father who passed away in an accident. He's like, no, that's not really you. And you can kind of see that in the movie, because eventually what happens is Brian decides that, yeah, he's a fireman, but he's going to help out the Robert De Niro character and try and figure out who was committing all of these murders using fires, making backdrafts. That's where the Scott Glenn character comes into play. I don't want to spoil it because I know a lot of people haven't really seen this movie, but the relationship between the two characters, between the two brothers, is is the backbone of this movie. And if you've ever had a brother, or you shared a room with a brother like I have, or my cousins have, because one thing is, my brother and my cousins, we used to play Backdraft when we were kids. We used to actually pretend to be the characters in this movie and reenact scenes from this movie, like we did a lot with movies like the U.S. Marshals as well. That was the same thing that my cousin and my brothers, we'd like to play cops and firemen, as you can see. And so this was a big deal for us when we were kids, and I still absolutely love this movie every time I rewatch it. I did take a few years off of it, I'm going to be honest. I was watching this movie when I found out that the job I worked for was going on strike, and it kind of, gave me a little bit of a downer on the movie for a little while, because that was a hard 3 months after that, and I can remember that memory very, very vividly. But the movie itself is great. It's one of Ron Howard's best movies. It really gets a bad rap, and a great emotional performance from Kurt Russell in here as well. I definitely think you should check out Backdraft if you haven't seen it. And then, of course, at number one, obviously, I'm sure you guys could have figured this one out, we have The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. He plays MacReady in this movie. The score to this movie is absolutely phenomenal. It's my favorite alien film of all time. Very simple premise. We're in Antarctica. A bunch of guys are on this base, and then unfortunately an alien has infiltrated them that looks and sounds just like them. So you don't even know who the alien is. You can't trust anybody. And of course, people start getting picked off one by one. But the snow setting, the score, I mean, everything about this movie makes it a masterpiece. It's my favorite John Carpenter film. And of course, that means it's my favorite Kurt Russell film of all time. Now, there's a couple movies you guys probably noticed, speaking of John Carpenter, that I didn't have on my list. One of those being Big Trouble in Little China. I rewatched half the movie to make sure I still felt the same way about it. Just not a big fan of Big Trouble in Little China. I've tried so many times. I have the Blu-ray. It's just not one of my, it just doesn't click with me. And I know so many people love that movie, and it's one of those movies where I feel like I'm being left out. And unfortunately, I just can't say that I like it. It's just not one of my kinds of movies, so it doesn't make the top 10 Kurt Russell ones. I would say that was probably like the biggest omission. I'm sure some people out there really like Stargate. Not a big Stargate guy. The Christmas Chronicles, I floated with putting them on the list because, they're nice, fun little Christmas movies, and Kurt Russell's not a bad Santa Claus. But, overall, I'm pretty happy with this top 10 list. Let me know what your top 10 lists are, guys, in the comment section below. And while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want, you can become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggalo, Ben Rondo, and Harvey Scott, or you can even become a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, Uncle V, Nicholas Head, Stone Gasman, and Kevin Kruger, or you can become a channel bankroll member like Mr. Smelly Potato. But of course, guys, if you got no money to throw my way, I don't mind at all. I just hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.